Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Liz. On behalf of Optimum Seismic, I want to let you know that we are honored to sponsor this event. For the last 2 years, we've been working with BizFed in educating our business community about the importance of being prepared for the big one. And this is a continuation of these efforts, and I think I'm very proud that it's getting better and better. And I knew this fact last week when we were interviewing several candidates for an important position, and this one of the finalists of this position basically told me that this would be the only job he would take because of the fact that this is not just a job, that as much as we are providing professional services, but we're also making a difference in our community for generations to come. Because of the efforts that we're doing here today, because of the time you have taken to come here, be prepared for the future. We're going to make a difference for many of the population in Southern California. So I was really proud when this person genuinely told me this, and at that time I knew we were doing something right. But there are many important benefits of resiliency, earthquake resiliency. You heard from LAEDC, Lauren, you heard from Madison this amazing presentation about the legal liabilities and why it makes sense for businesses to be prepared, property owners to be prepared. We heard from Ken about the importance of how these improvements actually work, and they make our structural integrity of our buildings better and protect our investments. So we know all about these. I'm going to just basically focus on the economics of why we should do these improvements and specifically for businesses. And interestingly, everything that we do about resiliency, ladies and gentlemen, is all interrelated. Just like people are, when a community, part of the community is hurt, we can feel that pain in the rest of the community. The same way, if you think about it, currently all of these housing that is being protected by the ordinances that the cities are enacting, these are the most vulnerable buildings, these soft story buildings. We saw Ken's examples. But interesting, these are the most affordable stock of housing in Southern California by default, because they're the lowest rents. The newer buildings are the ones that are better built and they're most up to code, but they're a lot more expensive. Most people cannot afford to live in these beautiful towers. So by default, these are also the most disadvantaged or the most affordable communities that are at stake. And these are the people that work, are employees of our businesses. That's how, and if that employee is impacted, ladies and gentlemen, if he has to worry about housing for his children or for his elderly parents and so on and so forth, guess what? Is he going to come to work? Or is he going to go look for a place, a roof for the children? That's how this is important, that we protect our affordable housing. On environmental benefit, we talked about the fact that these older buildings also have asbestos. They have lead. So just because one city has an ordinance and the other city, next city doesn't, you're still at some risk, because when these major events happen, things are not going to get back into a normal situation quickly. It's going to take months. sometimes years. During this time, there will be storms. There will be Santa Ana winds happening. And all of these asbestos and all of this lead that is now exposed to the nature is going to get around all of Southern California, impact all of us. So this is why efforts like this is important. It's unprecedented. As we heard from Evan Rees of U.S. Resiliency Council, there hasn't been anything like this, where SCAG, largest consortium of government, comes together with some of the largest business associations like BizFed, LA Business County Federation, and LA EDC. This is important, and I really want all of you to be proud of yourself to be here, to take the time to listen, to be prepared, because this is the shift is going to happen. It has to happen for major metropolitans like LA County to be prepared. Now, economic benefit, I'm going to talk about it more in depth. Now, a picture, as they say, is worth 1,000 words. I have a very short video. It's an example of what looks like a soft story building. It could be an office building. It could be an apartment building. And we're going to show you this video. This video was actually, we had permission from a Japanese laboratory. This was actually filmed in Japan. If you notice, on the upper end of the screen, those are people standing up there. This is a huge shake table, which actually on the left, we have the building that is retrofitted. On the right, the building that is not retrofitted. And they're going to shake this, so we're going to see what happens. Now I'm going to try to make this work. I think it's easy to know which one wasn't retrofitted. This is, by the way, we do have these shake tables here in US. We have one which I have seen in at UC San Diego, except we can only do one building at a time. Unfortunately, we don't have a large one like this. Hopefully one day there will be some kind of a potential opportunity to build one of these. But this is real. There are several myths, ladies and gentlemen, that we need to help as leaders of the community to clear for the general public. Okay, one of them, it really doesn't matter if you're a building owner or a business owner occupying a building, renting a building. It really doesn't matter. You still have the responsibility to the occupants of the building. So when you write up a lease, a long-term lease for a building, you need to understand what kind of building is you're going to expose your employees, your customers to structurally. You need to know what kind of building this is. This way you can be prepared. You can do what you need to do to be prepared. And the reasonableness, as you heard from the last speaker, it's the reasonableness. Nobody expects that we earthquake-proof every building. But what's important is we do take certain steps that are reasonable we can do in our... One of the things, ladies and gentlemen, the other issue is that in California, we have some of the most stringent real estate transaction disclosure laws. If you have recently bought or sold a building, you know how many sets of documents you have to sign and disclose to people. So just the fact to say that you did not know because you don't own the building, it's not going to work. God forbid when the big one happens. So pay attention that it doesn't matter. Now, if you do own the building, I'm trying to show you kind of a couple of examples, real examples. One on the low end, this is a $2.5 million value building. This could be 7,000 square feet or 8 to 10 units of apartment building, either one. And option A is if the building is standing up there, the one that we saw earlier. Here in LA, the cheapest unit you can find is about $250,000 a unit. So 10 units is about $2.5 million, and it costs about $75,000 to retrofit, which increases the structural integrity of your building multiple fold. Okay? Now, with that, first of all, you protect your cash flow. Because when the building is down or is red tax, all of a sudden no rent coming in. At the same time, you still have your mortgages. You still have to pay the taxes. You still have the insurance payments you have to. You have all the expenses, but you don't have any rents coming in. Then, if the building is deemed to be demolished, all of a sudden you lost all of your equity. Depending on how long you have owned it, some of property owners have no debt. So 100% equity. Everything is gone. Not only that everything is gone, now you also have demolition cost. Demolition cost, sometimes if you have asbestos and lead, could be more expensive than the retrofitting cost. Especially after an earthquake, what's going to happen, as we observed in Northridge, I was in business back then, what happens, the cost goes up because of so many projects that have to be removed and demolished because of the cities will come to you. Cities will come to you and give you a notice. You cannot just leave debris sitting around, expose the whole community to whatever it's in there. So these are pros and cons. A lot of this is common sense. Cash flow, we talked about. Loss, if you have a business, you have equipment, inventory. Sometimes some of the buildings in LA County, the content is a lot more valuable. The logistical equipment and so on, it's a lot more valuable than the building itself. You may have a $20 million building, you may have $100 million worth of inventory and assets in the building. So then loss of workforce, certainly people are not going to stick around if you have to get back online for a year or two while you're rebuilding. A lot of your best employees, which is your biggest asset these days, because so much of our businesses are service communities, they're going to leave. They have bills to pay. They're going to move on to other companies, to your competitors. Liability, we heard enough about that. Environmental concern, we talked about that. Loss of market share, this is a big one because during a year or two, while you're trying to rebuild your business, you may lose a lot of your business market share, and by the time you come back, it may actually be too late. Which is why FEMA believes if we do not do something, if we do not change our behavior here in Southern California, when the big one happens, 40% of our businesses will not come back. Imagine if you're involved with the business, if you're involved with the city, if you lose all of a sudden 40% of your revenue, how can you survive? We wouldn't be able to, no matter how much credit lines we have. This is a really good case study, ladies and gentlemen. This is unbelievable. If anything, we need to communicate this with everybody, every business in Southern California. Anheuser-Busch, almost 50 years ago at the Silmar earthquake, 6.5, they suffered major damage. After this, they decided to invest $1.2 million to upgrade their brewery with earthquake retrofits and any new construction designed to the latest seismic standard. $1.2 million. Okay? Now, in 1994, when the Northridge earthquake happened, this was one of the only major businesses that was still operating at 100% capacity. In fact, they were able to be there for the community, providing water to everyone. If you remember, we had people standing in lines, miles of people for just fresh water. So, in fact, they estimated that the economic benefit to them was almost $1.1 billion, $350 million of building losses, and $750 million of projected economic losses if they were to be down. So I would want to do that investment every day. $1.2 million within 20 years, $1.2 billion benefit. Isn't that a good investment? This is, ladies and gentlemen, true for every business in the state of California. And bottom line, earthquake retrofitting is good business, makes good business sense, and it's something that it should not be an afterthought. It should be part of our business planning process. Just like when we have to pay our taxes or we have to buy liability insurance when you open a business, you don't question, do I need a liability insurance or not? Just like that, you need to think about how do we prepare. Am I prepared for a big one or not? And make that part of the business plan. With that, if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer any questions. In the meantime, I commend all of you for participating in this forum, and I would appreciate you communicating this to your colleagues and others in your associations, and make sure they're all engaged in this process. Thank you.